Time. It never seems to stop, does it? Speeding past us by the second, the former life becomes more and more distant. But we shan't forget about those who crawled so we could walk, who built the foundations that we reap the benefits of, those who made the game what it is now. Today, we are comparing the two bucket-getting, big-body forwards in Carmelo Anthony and Jayson Tatum in the third installment of Through the Eras by Dash and Hoop. Look, before I even start this video, I know there's gonna be some hate from those 2000s basketball fans that are mad I'm even bringing up this comparison. I understand, I really do. But let me be clear, yes, I think Jayson Tatum is better than Carmelo Anthony. Yup, bring on the hate. You're just a guy who never watched Melo play. He had the sexiest jumper I ever seen. He was giving Kobe Bryant buckets. Cool, that all sounds good, but I'm just personally a win basketball games kind of guy. And let's be real, Tatum has won some big time ball games. But is that fair of me to say? I mean, did Melo have an adequate amount of help? Was he producing at a higher level than Tatum individually? Let's go ahead and talk about it. Carmelo Kyan Anthony. The legendary scorer made his presence known throughout the world with his absurd freshman year of college basketball. The young man averaged 22 and 10 while leading Syracuse to their first ever NCAA championship. Alongside this, he earned himself player of the tournament. The 18-year-old Anthony knew exactly how to use his large frame, laying down his grown man strength right through defenders and punished anybody scared of the shoulder when they sagged off and splashed that thing. FaceTime? A true three-level scorer, even by today's standards. Being in that same 03 draft class as LeBron James, he unfortunately wasn't getting picked number one regardless of what he did in college. Going third in the draft to the Denver Nuggets, behind Darko career average of 6 points a game Milicic, Carmelo was put into a situation, to say the least. Not a bad situation. I mean, his first year as a 19-year-old, he averaged 21 points with decent talent around him like Andre Miller, Marcus Camby, and a young Nene. This supporting cast made it to a 5-game series against Pete Kevin Garnett and the Minnesota Timberwolves, ultimately not having enough juice to slow down the 04 MVP. And these next couple early years were kind of the same story. Although they did add Kenyon Martin onto the squad for the following year, it didn't change the playoff results in Melo's sophomore year. A first-round gentleman's sweep to the eventual champions, the San Antonio Spurs. Carmelo unfortunately had himself a slight sophomore slump, with less points on less effective field goal percentage this year, but he did indeed turn it up individually next year, as he boosted his scoring from under 21 a game to 26.5 in his third year. So running it back with this same core in Carmelo's regular season uptick, he was looking to make that jump and truly compete in this next playoff run, to show the masses that his scoring has gone up a level and that, another gentleman's sweep to the Elton Brand-led Clippers? Even with Melo elevating his game to third-team All-NBA levels, it still wasn't enough to get them over the hump. The Nuggets organization knew they had a generational talent on their hands, but this last playoff loss was too much on the mental to just run it back. So they decided to shake it up. Rolling the dice, Denver had combined the talents of 22-year-old Carmelo Anthony with the answer, 31-year-old Allen Iverson. Now, before we get into what the insane scoring duo of Iverson and Melo achieved, let's take a look at our other contestant. Jayson, he's only 19, Christopher Tatum. The St. Louis native had been a sensation since he was a junior in high school. Getting hype around his name during his senior year had been warranted, as he averaged a light 30 ball on the way to winning a high school championship and was now on his way to become a Blue Devil his freshman year. Being a young 18-year-old freshman at one of the most prestigious college basketball programs ever didn't faze a young man. And even though he missed the first 8 games due to a foot injury, it didn't take him long at all to start cooking. Averaging about 17, 8, and 2, Tatum continued to show his physically dominant game against the mere mortals. I mean, other collegiate athletes. His tricky first step allowed him just enough separation where he used his ridiculous strength to simply go through defenders like they weren't there. And just like Melo, he knew defenders were scared of that physicality and sucked the soul out of teams with his icy jumper. Now, Tatum didn't have that collegiate success Melo did, as he lost in the second round of the tourney, but he did go down as a 3rd overall pick in the 2017 NBA draft, just like Anthony. But unlike Melo, Tatum was drafted to a team that was the first seeded squad in the Eastern Conference the year previous. And pardon the interruption, but if you guys could snap on that like button, honey dip the subscribe button, and activate those post notifications, your chances of making it to the league will increase tenfold. Now, Tatum got another little treat to his rookie year. He had the honor to share the court with the legendary Kyrie Irving and the phenom from Utah, Gordon Hayward, in his first year as an NBA player. Now, on first glance, you probably couldn't ask for a better start, right? A team known for their historical success, 2 bona fide all-stars, a rising star in your teammate Jaylen Brown, who was drafted a year earlier, and then alongside you, the experienced Al Horford. The stars aligned perfectly. That is until the first game of the season, Gordon Hayward obliterates his leg in the first 6 minutes of opening night. The Celtics still managed to win 55 games on the season and finish 2nd in the East, in big parts of Tatum and Brown's development alongside Kyrie Irving. So they're still looking at a spectacular chance to continue this momentum in the playoffs. With all-timer Kyrie Irving leading the way, what could stop them? And the answer to that is a knee infection that kept him out for the remainder of the season and postseason. So the 2 supposedly best guys are out for the rest of the season? Tatum and Brown say, no worries, and led the team in scoring, beating the Milwaukee Bucks in the first round, gentlemen sweeping the Sixers in the second round, and taking LeBron to a Game 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals. And here we saw that Tatum had one of, if not the coolest poster a rookie can ever have. That's a grown man's dunk right there, number 0. The next season shows a higher dependence on the play from the Jays, while still being spearheaded by Kyrie Irving throughout the regular season. This was a bit of a wonky year, as the team lost 6 more games and instead finished 4th in the East. And while this was happening, there's some off-court drama between the front office and Kyrie Irving. Not something you want happening with 2 uber-talented young guys watching, but nonetheless, they sweep their first-round matchup, the Indiana Pacers, but end up losing to the emerging monster that is Giannis Antetokounmpo in the 2019 postseason. With Kyrie being officially done with Boston, the keys were now handed over to the Jays, as this was finally Tatum's turn to show what being a leader looked like. And boy, did he do a pretty damn good job. Not only was this his first year as an all-star, but he boosted up his stats in literally every single major stat category, showing out that he can not only improve individually, but he improved the winning column slightly by getting 50 wins as a leader at 21 years old. This also earned him his first All-NBA selection, getting a spot on the 3rd team. Oh, and the playoff success? How about leading his team to the Eastern Conference Finals in the bubble? You know who could never do that at 21? Actually, we'll talk about that. So with these guys' first 3 years in the league covered, what have we seen so far? Well, Carmelo was leagues ahead of Tatum in the scoring department during this time, with him averaging more than 5.5 points more than Tatum in their first 3 seasons. Now we can look at that being a product of Carmelo having to carry the scoring load for his less talented team. But we can also use that same reasoning to assume that is why he didn't have the greater playoff success than Tatum. But I do want to remind you what Tatum was doing without Kyrie in 2 postseasons. I think that's pretty damn important. They're about the same in terms of rebounding, assist, stocks, and Tatum has a little bit of an advantage in the true shooting category, but like we said, different team talent and also different eras. Our early stages of careers can be fluky. So when expectations are finally put onto these all-star / all-NBA level talents, what did they do with it? Let's look at the next 3 seasons of Carmelo Anthony's NBA career. With the 06-07 season for the Denver Nuggets starting up, we get to witness the first season of the duo of Carmelo Anthony and Allen Iverson, once the trade went down in December of 06. The world was lit on fire and assumed that this team would be a favorite out west. But there might have been too much scoring and not enough ball, as they finished 3 seeds lower in the West compared to last year, cementing themselves as the 6th seed. This season did prove to be yet another jump for Melo, as he increased his scoring from 26.5 points to 29 points a game, earning himself another All-NBA 3rd team selection. The pattern we'll continue to see is that Melo will have himself some excellent individual seasons with no playoff success to back it up, because we see in this year that the Nuggets once again lost in the first round to the again eventual champions, the San Antonio Spurs. See, now the organization didn't want to overreact. This was the damn NBA champions that beat them, for God's sakes, and they didn't even get AI in training camp. This next year will be the year. Two of the best talents in the league having a full season together, and oh my God, a sweep in the first round, guys? Look, I get it. I know it's Kobe and Powell, but Jesus, fellas, we couldn't get a win. It didn't help that these guys finished 8th in the West either. But wouldn't you know, Carmelo Anthony has himself an efficient 25.5 season and another third-team All-NBA selection. The West was loaded this year, as evident by Denver getting the 8th seed with 50 wins. But Melo is supposed to be looked at as an era-defining guy. Why are all of your stats going down in the playoffs, sir? Points, rebounds, and assists all down? So when are we going to get a true playoff performance from our main man, Melo? He answered that and said, "Shut the hell up, Dash and Hoop," and showed all of us what he could do in the playoffs. It took him lowering his scoring numbers and upping his efficiency with his new teammate proven winner, Chauncey Billups, to finally give us a taste as to what he could do. Individually, this 08-09 season didn't earn Melo any All-NBA selections, nor even an All-Star nod, but it sure as hell was his best year in the playoffs. Finally improving his regular season numbers in the playoffs, he made a jump of 5 points in the scoring category, while also having memorable defensive moments throughout these playoffs against guys like David West, Dirk Nowitzki, and the biggest of all, the boxing match in the post with Kobe Bryant. Handling the CP3-led Hornets and the highly competitive Mavs were huge for Melo's early playoff legacy. If you haven't watched any of this playoff series, you're missing out. Melo absolutely explodes in Game 1 against the Lakers, hitting everything he shoots in that first half. It was a big moment for the man, especially with all the haters starting to associate him as the first-round exit guy. While he put up a hell of a fight against arguably prime Kobe Bryant, it was no match. The Mamba hit dagger after dagger in multiple crunch time situations throughout the series. But what about Tatum's expectation years? After an absolute duel in the bubble with the Miami Heat, Tatum decided to take it up yet another level, improving every major stat category once again. And that's including true shooting percentage. While also playing the best defense we've ever seen from the man, the only asterisk next to this year, though, is the injury of Jaylen Brown towards the end of the regular season. Absolutely over the Celtics. This in turn helped the loss to the 2021 Brooklyn Nets in the first round of the playoffs. The Jays weren't playing that going into next year though, as it was now a revenge tour. After all the media slander throughout the summer, Tatum and Brown became more proficient in all aspects of their games, raising all their counting stats and went on an absolute tear all year long. It helped in this 21-22 season that they had the Defensive Player of the Year, Marcus Smart, clamping down any guard that stood in front of him. While they looked dominant going into their playoff run, especially after manhandling the KD and Kyrie-led Brooklyn Nets in a sweep, they put themselves into back-to-back corners with Game 7s on the line against the former NBA champion, Giannis Antetokounmpo in the East semis, then against the red-hot, one-seeded Miami Heat in the conference finals. And yes, this is where Jimmy Butler barely missed the game-winning 3 in the last game. Side note, I'll die on the hill. That wasn't a bad shot. The Jays finally got over the hump and made their way to the NBA Finals against the dynasty of Steph, Clay, and Dre. The 24-year-old had bulldozed his way into this position and tried to make the most out of it, even being up 2-1 against the 3-time champions. Whether it be lingering injuries or the moment being too big, Tatum was unable to come through and ended up losing the series 4-2 to a historic Golden State Warrior squad. And finally, in the past year of Tatum's excellence, surprise, surprise, he got better. In all categories once again, Tatum upped his numbers with an absurd 30 points, almost 9 rebounds, 4.5 assists on 54 effective field goal percentage, and finished top 5 in MVP voting. Regardless of all the severe controversy around his head coach, despite his co-star not feeling welcome to the city of Boston after being in trade talks, it did not matter. Tatum came to work, showed up to 74 games in the regular season, and did his job. With another second seed finish in the Eastern Conference, it was time for the Celtics to do what they know best: fight and claw their way to the Eastern Conference Finals round. Starting off by losing 2 games to the fluky Atlanta Hawks. Yes, I'm a hater of Trae Young's game, sue me. They put themselves in a position to not be as well rested as their opponents, the Philadelphia 76ers, in the semis. This led to another Philly collapse and another insane run by Jayson Tatum, including breaking the record for most points in a Game 7 with 51 points. This high was short-lived though, because although they made it back to their natural home, the conference finals, they went up against a red-hot Miami Heat team that was borderline unfuckwithable. Quickly going down 0-3 against Miami, the C's made a valiant effort to force a Game 7 that was abruptly ended by an ankle injury suffered by Tatum in the first quarter of Game 7. So both guys, being 6'8" small forwards who could bully you at all 3 levels, had vastly different levels of success in these first 6 years of their career. On one hand, you had a guy that made it to the conference finals once, while the other had made it to the finals once and the conference finals 4 times. One of these guys is consistently improving his production on the court during the regular season and playoffs, while the other guy was a little shaky. With both of these hoopers having similar skill sets, I think it's safe to say that Jayson Tatum is a better and more accomplished player than Carmelo Anthony was by this age. And yes, I do believe that his trajectory is on path to make him one of the best NBA players to ever touch a basketball. So yep, I think he's gonna be better than Carmelo all time here pretty soon. But what do you think, Dashing Hoopers? Is this too absurd of a take to be having? Am I too much of a new school head where this is borderline insane? Should we just not compare players and instead enjoy what they did for us? You know I can't do that. You let me know down in the comments below, ladies and gentlemen. And as always, y'all have a phenomenal rest of your day.